I stood outside the massive silver and white wedding hall, clutching the small velvet box so tightly my fingers had gone numb. Hey everyone! Before we dive in, make sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss stories like this. Now, let's start today's story. My palms were sweating, my heart beat wild, pounding in the same frantic rhythm it had on the morning I walked my daughter, Lily, to school for the very first time. Back then, she had held my hand with both of hers, skipping beside me, laughing at everything and nothing. I could barely believe so many years had passed. For months, I had imagined this moment with the kind of hope only a father can hold on to. I pictured Lily in her wedding dress, running toward me with that bright, sunshine-warm smile she used to greet me with. I imagined her hugging me, whispering, "Dad, you made it," and I imagined the crack in my heart finally sealing itself shut. But as I stood there staring at the glowing entrance, I realized I wasn't sure anymore. Not about my welcome. Not about my place in her life. Not even about whether she still thought of me as her father. After the divorce, she had stayed with her mother. And her mother, Laura, made sure every single bridge between Lily and me slowly, painfully burned. It wasn't obvious at first, just a missed weekend here, a rescheduled dinner there. A text from Laura saying, "Lily isn't feeling well," right before I was supposed to pick her up. Then came holidays with no invitations, birthdays with no updates, school events no one told me about. By the time I realized how deep the wedge had been driven, it felt like I was standing on the outside of a house I once lived in. A house where all the lights were still on, but the doors were locked, and someone else had taken my place at the table. Still, I was determined. Today was her wedding. And regardless of how much distance lay between us, I wanted her to know one thing, that I had never stopped loving her. Never stopped trying. I walked inside. The lights were blinding, the hall dripping with glamour. Crystal chandeliers glowed overhead, laughter and clinking glasses mingled with the violin music floating through the air. Perfume, roses, champagne, it all blurred together into a dizzy cloud. People turned to look at me. Some smiled politely, others stared with confusion, some seeming to wonder who I was and how I'd slipped into this perfect picture. And then, I saw her. Lily. My daughter. My little girl. My heartbeat. She was breathtaking in her wedding gown, lace cascading elegantly down her arms, the dress shimmering with tiny pearls that caught the light like stars. Her hair was pinned back, soft curls framing her face, and for a moment I forgot how to breathe. She turned, her eyes scanning the crowd. Then they landed on me. For a single, fragile heartbeat, I saw the little girl who used to leap into my arms at the end of every school day. Her lips twitched upward, just barely, and that flicker of hope pierced me straight through the chest. But the moment vanished. Her expression hardened so quickly it felt like someone had ripped the air out of the room. Her smile faded. Her shoulders stiffened. Her eyes, those same eyes that once looked at me like I was her whole world, narrowed with something sharp and heavy. She walked toward me. Not slowly. Not lovingly. Purposefully. Guests parted around her like she was Moses walking through the Red Sea. Whispers followed her like shadows. "Dad," she said, voice clipped, sharp around the edges. I swallowed, forcing a small smile. "Hi, sweetheart." She didn't return the smile. Instead, she stepped closer, so close only I could hear her next words. "Dad, leave. You're not welcome here." The words hit me so hard my vision blurred. I blinked once, twice, trying to make sense of it. "What?" My voice barely came out. "You shouldn't have come," she said firmly. Her jaw trembled for half a second before she steeled it. I took a breath that felt like swallowing needles. "Lily. I'm your father. I came to see you get married." No, her voice cracked, and then she swallowed it away. "You don't get to show up today like you were ever part of my life." A physical pain shot through my chest. "That's not fair. You know how much I tried. Your mother." "I don't want excuses," she snapped. Her mother appeared behind her, Laura, the architect of every distance between us. She placed a possessive hand on Lily's arm, tilting her chin upward like she was guarding her from a monster. "Lily has made her decision," she said with a smugness only I seemed to notice. "It's best if you go. Don't create a scene." Of course. Laura was here, always ready to twist, manipulate, and pull strings no one else could see. I searched Lily's face again, desperately hoping for even the tiniest flicker of doubt. A hint that maybe, just maybe, this wasn't entirely what she wanted. But all I saw was anger. And underneath it, pain. Dad, her voice softened, trembling. Please. Go. That one word, Dad, hurt more than everything else combined. Just like that, every dream, every fantasy, every hopeful version of today shattered like a glass dropped onto marble. I wanted to tell her everything. I wanted to tell her what really happened. I wanted to tell her how many nights I stayed awake, wishing I could fight harder, scream louder, break whatever chains Laura wrapped around her. But she'd already turned away. And I stood there watching my daughter walk back into her perfect wedding, wiping her eyes while guests stared and whispered behind manicured hands. I had no choice. I walked out. The doors closed behind me with a soft click. The click sounded like a final goodbye. A burial. A seal on a coffin. Outside, I looked down at the small velvet box still in my trembling hand, the necklace my mother had given me, the one passed through generations. The one I had promised myself Lily would wear on her wedding day. The one she never even got to see. My knees threatened to give out. But then, a tap on my shoulder. I turned to see a young man, maybe mid-20s, dressed in a suit, looking pale and shaken. "You're Lily's father?" he asked quietly. I nodded slowly. He looked around nervously before leaning close. "Sir, you need to know the truth. Lily was lied to. Everything she thinks she knows about you is wrong. And if you leave now, she'll never learn what really happened." My heart froze mid-beat. "The truth?" I whispered. He nodded. "Yes. And it's worse than you think." I stared at the wedding hall doors again. The day wasn't over. Not even close. And the truth, whatever it was waiting inside. The young man motioned for me to follow him around the side of the building, away from the guests flowing in and out of the sparkling entrance. I followed him, confused and tense, my heartbeat thundering in my ears like distant war drums. The laughter inside the hall felt like it belonged to another world, one where fathers got to walk their daughters down the aisle instead of being kicked out like strangers. We walked past a row of decorative trees, tall, white, artificial birch trunks covered in fairy lights. Their soft glow illuminated the corner we stopped in, hidden from the crowd. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The silence felt heavy, like the air just before a storm. Finally, he turned to me. "I'm Daniel," he said, straightening his tie nervously. "I'm the best man." I nodded, trying to read him. Trying to figure out if this was another trap, another humiliation. "All right." Daniel exhaled shakily. "Sir. I've heard a lot about you. Mostly from Lily and her mother." A cold dread slid through me like ice water. "What did they tell her?" I asked cautiously. He pressed his lips together. "She thinks you abandoned her. That you moved away, started a new family, and didn't want her anymore." The word struck me like a physical blow. My chest tightened until it hurt to breathe. "That's not," my voice cracked. I swallowed hard and tried again. "That's not what happened." "I know," Daniel said quickly, stepping closer. "That's why I came out here." I stared at him, my mind spinning. I didn't know whether to believe him or brace myself for more pain. Daniel rubbed the back of his neck. "2 nights ago, Lily had a breakdown. She told me she hated you for walking out on her. She said she used to wait by the window every birthday hoping you'd show up, and that eventually, she learned to stop expecting anything from you." My throat tightened painfully. I lifted a hand to my face, covering my eyes for a moment. "I never stopped showing up. I was never allowed in." "That's not the truth," I whispered. "Her mother, Laura, blocked my number. She changed Lily's school without telling me. She filed false reports, claiming I was unstable. It took everything I had just to keep a sliver of visitation rights. And when I finally won them, she moved to a different city." Daniel's eyes softened with genuine sympathy. "I believe you. And I think Lily would too, if she ever heard it from you." "That's the problem," I said quietly. "She won't listen. Not right now." He hesitated, lowering his voice even more. "Sir, tonight is the last chance. If she walks down that aisle believing you didn't want her, that belief will shape her entire life. Her marriage. Her future kids. Everything." My breath hitched. "What do you mean?" I asked. He looked me straight in the eyes. "Because she already regrets what she said to you. I saw her face after she told you to leave. She ran backstage crying. She told me she didn't want to hurt you. But she thought you didn't care." From pain. From confusion. From a lifetime of lies. She still cares for you, Daniel said softly. More than she knows. A warmth, faint but real, flickered inside me, like a dying campfire trying to spark back to life. Daniel took a hesitant step closer. If you want, I can talk to the groom. He should know. He's a good man. I shook my head firmly. No. This is between me and Lily. No one else. He nodded, almost relieved by my determination. Then there's one more thing you need to hear. I braced myself. He lowered his gaze, like he hated being the bearer of such truth. 3 weeks ago, I overheard Laura and her sister talking. They were laughing about how Lily would never find out what they did. My pulse jumped. What did they do? Daniel looked up, jaw tight with anger. Everything. They hid the truth from her. They destroyed your messages. Your gifts. Your letters. It felt like the ground shifted beneath my feet. My letters. My voice shook. The ones I wrote every month. He nodded. All gone. Her mother told her you never sent anything. A hollow ache spread through my chest. I saw flashes of every letter I'd written, each word carefully chosen, each envelope sealed with hope. I had poured my heart into them. To think she never even saw them, I whispered. Daniel swallowed. Laura did it because she didn't want Lily to love you more than her. I closed my eyes, gripping the wall for support. All these years. All the silence. All the distance. None of it was Lily's choice. It was never her. Sir, Daniel said gently, you deserve to tell her everything. And she deserves to finally know her father didn't abandon her. Hope, small but fierce, surged through me like a flame that refused to die. Where is she now? I asked, straightening. Backstage, he said. Fixing her makeup before the ceremony starts. I nodded slowly, determination crystallizing in my chest. I wasn't leaving. Not until she knew the truth. Not until I looked her in the eyes and told her I never stopped loving her. Daniel pointed toward a side entrance. Go through there. I'll distract Laura. I stared at the door. As if the entire world had narrowed to that one doorway. My chance. My moment. My daughter. I took a deep breath and walked toward it, each step heavy with years of pain and years of love that never had the chance to reach her. But just as my hand brushed the door handle, a familiar voice sliced through the air. Well, Laura said coldly. I thought I told you to leave. I turned slowly. Her eyes were razor sharp. Her smile, poison sweet. And standing behind her were the wedding manager. And 2 security guards. She wasn't taking chances this time. She wanted me gone, for good. Laura's heels clicked sharply against the marble tile as she approached, each step slicing through the air like a warning. Her hair was styled so precisely it looked immovable, as rigid and cold as the smile stretching across her face. The wedding manager hovered beside her, clearly uncomfortable, while the 2 security guards behind them stood with crossed arms and stiff postures. You're not supposed to be here, Laura said, voice dripping with sugar-coated venom. I asked you nicely to leave once. I won't ask again. I didn't look at her. I couldn't. My thoughts were only on Lily, my daughter, my little girl, just beyond that door. 10 steps away. 10 impossible steps. I'm not leaving, I said quietly. Her eyebrows shot up as if she had never heard anyone challenge her before. Excuse me, I said, I repeated firmly, lifting my head and meeting her gaze, I'm not leaving. The guard stepped forward, but I held up a hand, stopping them. You really want to drag out the father of the bride in front of all these guests? I asked calmly. Go ahead. Make a scene. But if you do, I'll tell everyone here exactly why. Laura's expression flickered, just a crack, but a crack nonetheless. And I didn't stop. You kept her letters from me, I said, the words scraping their way out of my chest. You hid her drawings. You blocked my calls. You changed your address so I couldn't find you. And you told her I walked out. The wedding manager's eyes widened in shock. One of the guards looked away, guilt flickering across his face as if he suddenly realized he was on the wrong side of this. Laura went pale. That's ridiculous, she snapped. You're making things up. Then let's bring Lily here, I said. We can explain it to her together. Right now. In front of everyone. For a split second, real panic flashed across her features. That was all the confirmation I needed. Security, she barked, voice cracking slightly, get him out. No. The single word cut through the tension like a knife. Everyone turned. It was the groom. He stood there with a calm strength, tall and collected, but his jaw was locked tight and his eyes burned with suspicion. "What's going on?" he asked Laura. She opened her mouth, but I stepped forward. "Your fiancé deserves the truth," I said evenly. "I'm her father. And I'm not leaving until she hears it." The groom looked at me, then at Laura. "Is that true?" She let out a dramatic, irritated sigh. "He's trying to ruin Lily's wedding. He abandoned her." "She told me you laughed about keeping secrets from her," I said sharply. "That you destroyed my letters." Her face twisted into something ugly, something venomous. "You're insane." "Enough," the groom said, voice suddenly firm. He looked at the guards. "Stand down." They stepped back immediately. Then he turned to me, expression softening. "Come with me. Lily deserves to hear whatever this is. From you." Laura panicked. "You can't do that." "Watch me," he said, not even looking at her. He opened the backstage door and motioned for me to enter. I followed him inside. Instantly, the atmosphere changed. The music was muffled now, the chatter outside a dim hum. Backstage lights created a soft glow along the walls, and the air smelled like roses, perfume, and fresh hairspray. Then I saw her. Lily. She stood in front of a mirror, mascara wand trembling in her hand, her eyes red and puffy. Her reflection looked devastated, like a girl trying desperately to hold herself together on the biggest day of her life. "Lily," the groom said gently, "your dad is here. He wants to talk to you." Her hand froze mid-air. Slowly, painfully slowly, she turned around. Her eyes met mine. They were full of confusion. Pain. Hurt that had been building for years. "Why?" she whispered. "Why did you come back just to leave again?" The question hit me harder than any physical blow ever could. "I never left you," I said, my voice breaking. "Not once." She shook her head, her mouth trembling. "Dad, please don't. Not today." "I have to," I said softly. "Because today's the day you finally learn the truth." I reached into my pocket and placed the small velvet box on the counter beside her makeup. She stared at it. I opened it slowly. Inside was my mother's necklace, an old, delicate silver piece with a tiny sapphire in the center. Something meant to be passed down from grandmother to granddaughter. "I sent this to you on your 16th birthday, I said quietly. "It came back, stamped return to sender." She blinked. "I never saw that." "I know," I whispered. "You never saw any of them." The groom quietly closed the door behind us, giving us privacy. I took a steadying breath. "Lily, everything you think you know about me is a lie." Her lips trembled. "What do you mean?" So I told her. All of it. The blocked calls. The custody battles. The changed addresses. The moved schools. The letters. The gifts. The holidays spent waiting on my end, just like she waited on hers. I told her how many nights I sat with a pen in my hand, writing to a daughter who would never receive a single envelope. At first, she didn't move. Didn't blink. Didn't breathe. Then her face crumpled. "Mom lied," she whispered, tears spilling down her cheeks. "Every day," I said softly. "She didn't want you to love me. I never stopped fighting for you, sweetheart. I never stopped trying." A choked sob escaped her. She stumbled backward and collapsed into the nearest chair, covering her face. I knelt beside her, gently touching her hand. "Sweetheart," I whispered, "I never abandoned you." She looked up at me with eyes full of 10 years of pain, 10 years of being told she wasn't wanted. "Dad," she whispered, "why didn't you come sooner?" My voice cracked. "I tried. God knows I tried. But your mother made sure you never saw me." Something inside Lily snapped. Not anger at me, but at the truth. She wiped her tears with the back of her hand and stood abruptly. "I need to talk to her," she said, voice shaking with fury. "Right now." I nodded. She walked toward the door but paused, her hand on the handle. She turned back toward me. "Dad." Her voice broke. "Don't go anywhere. Please." I swallowed hard. "I'm not leaving," I said. "Not this time. Not ever again." She opened the door. And walked out. Ready to confront the woman who stole a decade from both of us. Guests whispered the moment they saw her, her streaked mascara, trembling hands, and the storm rising behind her eyes like a hurricane ready to tear through everything in its path. Lily didn't stop for anyone. Not for the bridesmaids who reached out in confusion. Not for the wedding coordinator who gasped and hustled backward to avoid the collision. Not even for the groom, who hurried behind her with a look of pure panic. And she especially didn't stop for Laura. Laura's smile froze the instant she spotted her daughter marching toward her. Her shoulders stiffened, her fingers tightening around her clutch until her knuckles turned white. She opened her mouth as if rehearsed, as if she had been preparing excuses for years and keeping them ready in her purse. "Lily," she said carefully, forcing a gentle tone. "Sweetheart, you shouldn't be crying right now. Your makeup. Did you lie to me?" Lily's voice cracked through the hall like thunder splitting the sky in half. Every conversation in the room died instantly. Glasses stopped mid-air. Footsteps halted. People froze mid-breath. Even the background music felt like it shriveled into silence. Laura blinked, her expression faltering. "What are you talking about?" "You told me Dad abandoned me," Lily said, her voice raw with years of pain. "You told me he didn't want me. That he didn't try. That he forgot about me." Her words trembled, but her anger gave them power. Around them, guests exchanged horrified looks. Some covered their mouths. Some whispered. Some stared at Laura like they were suddenly seeing her for who she truly was. Laura rushed forward, trying to grab her daughter's arm. "Lily, not here. We can talk inside." "No." Lily shouted. "We talk here." The echo of her voice rang through the hall. A collective gasp swept through the guests. I stood just inside the doorway, heartbeat hammering as I watched the scene unfold. I wanted to run to her, to protect her from this pain, but I knew this confrontation wasn't mine to lead. This was her truth to claim. Tears streamed down Lily's cheeks, leaving new streaks cutting through the old ones. "Mom, did you keep my letters from him? The ones I wrote every week for years?" Laura opened her mouth, but nothing came out. Her lips trembled, her eyes darted around as if looking for someone to save her. Lily didn't let her speak. "Did you block his number? Did you hide his gifts? Did you tell him I didn't want to see him?" Her voice cracked, trembling with heartbreak. Guests stared, some furious, some sympathetic, all stunned. The groom stepped beside her, placing a supportive hand on her back, but she barely seemed to notice. Laura stammered, "Lily, that man, your father, he wasn't stable. I was protecting you." "From what?" Lily demanded. "From a man who wanted to love me." Silence fell, thick and suffocating. Laura opened her mouth again, but nothing she said could fix the years of damage, not anymore. "You don't understand," she said weakly. "He was going to take you away from me." "No," Lily whispered, her voice steel and heartbreak combined. "You took him away from me." The words sliced through the room like a knife. Several guests flinched. Laura's expression flickered, cracking like thin glass under pressure. "I did what I thought was best," she insisted, but her voice lacked conviction. "For who?" Lily asked softly. "For me? Or for yourself?" Laura didn't answer. She couldn't. Lily wiped her cheeks with shaking hands. "You stole my father from me. You stole birthdays. You stole holidays. You stole memories I will never get back." A middle-aged woman in the crowd covered her mouth, tears forming in her eyes. A man shook his head angrily. Another whispered, "I knew something was off with her," as people began to shift uncomfortably under the weight of the truth. Lily's voice broke as she continued. "I waited for him every year. Every birthday. Every holiday. I thought he didn't love me. And you let me believe that." Laura reached out desperately. "Lily, please. Don't touch me." The words were sharp enough to cut skin. Her mother froze, hands suspended in the air before dropping helplessly to her side. Finally, with a voice barely above a whisper, Lily said the sentence that shattered the last piece of her mother's pride. "I don't think I can forgive you." Laura inhaled like someone had punched her. The groom stepped forward, voice steady. "Laura, they both deserve the truth." But instead of remorse, Laura's face twisted with defensiveness, her pride standing taller than her guilt. "You should be thanking me," she snapped, voice rising. "I raised you. I did everything. And now you choose him over me? After everything I sacrificed?" Lily stared, stunned, not at the words, but at the coldness behind them. "This isn't about choosing," Lily said quietly. "It's about finally knowing the truth." Laura's jaw tightened. Her eyes hardened. "Fine. If you want him so badly, go to him. But don't come back to me crying when he disappoints you again." Lily took a breath, steady, but trembling. "He never disappointed me. He just never got the chance." Then Lily turned. The crowd parted like the Red Sea as she walked toward me. My breath caught as she reached me, and without hesitation, she threw her arms around me. "Dad," she sobbed into my shoulder. "I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." I held her like I had been waiting years for this moment. "You did nothing wrong. None of this was your fault." Somewhere in the crowd, applause began. Soft, unsure, then stronger, louder, like people couldn't contain their emotions. The groom approached gently and placed a hand on my shoulder. "Sir, I'm honored to have you as part of our family." Emotion swelled in my chest. Lily pulled back, wiping tears. "Dad, will you walk me down the aisle?" I froze. "Are you sure?" I whispered. "Yes," she said firmly. "I want the truth to walk with me. I want you with me." My vision blurred. "I'd be honored." The guests cheered again, warm, sincere, healing. But one person wasn't cheering. Laura stood alone on the far side of the room, trembling with rage, shock, and the realization that her lies had finally collapsed. As the music began and Lily took my arm, Laura quietly slipped out the back door. And she didn't look back. The wedding coordinator wiped tears from her eyes as she hurried to the front, whispering to the musicians to quietly restart the ceremony. Her fingers shook slightly, perhaps from the chaos she had just witnessed, perhaps from the emotional storm that had shaken everyone in the room. Slowly, the hall began to settle again. Guests returned to their seats, though their whispers lingered like a low hum of electricity. Everyone was still processing it, the confrontation, the truth, the reunion that felt almost too powerful to belong in a wedding hall. This was supposed to be a celebration. A perfect day. A carefully arranged event polished to sparkle and shine. Instead, it had become something else entirely. A reckoning. A cleansing. A rebirth of a family torn apart and finally stitched back together. And now, it was time to begin again. Lily stood beside me at the end of the aisle, holding my arm with a grip that bordered on desperate. Not from fear, but from relief. From the need to feel grounded after having her entire world flipped upside down in front of a room full of people. She had reapplied her makeup hastily, but her eyes remained red, not with shame this time, not with confusion or anger, but with a deeper, softer emotion. Freedom. "Are you ready?" I whispered, leaning closer so only she could hear. She nodded, but her breath trembled. "I've never been more ready," she said, squeezing my arm with a tiny smile that made my heart ache. The massive double doors opened. Music rose from the quartet, soft, delicate, emotional, as though the musicians themselves felt the weight of this moment and had decided to honor it. All eyes turned toward us. But they weren't looking at the dress. They weren't admiring the floral arch. They weren't noting the decor or the lighting or the color palette. They were looking at us. A father, and a daughter, reunited in a place where they were never supposed to stand together. A place where lies had tried to keep us apart. A place where the truth had finally won. We took our first step. Every movement forward felt surreal. My legs were weak. My throat was tight. My heart felt too big for my chest. For years, I had imagined walking Lily down the aisle, on nights when loneliness kept me awake, on birthdays when I left gifts that never reached her, on holidays when I sat alone at the edge of my bed, wondering if she still thought of me. But in all those dreams, I had never imagined it would feel like this. Every step was 10 years' worth of healing. Every heartbeat was a memory reclaimed. Every breath was a victory against a decade of lies. Halfway down, Lily whispered, "Thank you for not leaving." I swallowed the lump in my throat. "Nothing could have made me leave you," I whispered back. "Not then. Not now. Not ever." She squeezed my arm again, and for a moment, it felt like time folded in on itself, that she was 6 years old again, clutching my hand, trusting me completely. We reached the altar. The groom looked at me with a respect so genuine it nearly undid me. His eyes silently promised that he understood everything, what I'd lost, what I'd regained, and what he would never let happen to her again. I took Lily's hand gently and placed it into his. "Take care of her," I said, voice steady despite the storm of emotions inside me. "I will," he replied softly. Lily turned her face toward me, her eyes glowing with gratitude and something deeper, love that had been buried but not destroyed. "I love you, Dad," she whispered. "I love you too," I choked out. I stepped back and took my seat in the front row, the same seat I had been denied minutes earlier. Now, guests looked at me with a mixture of respect, admiration, sympathy, and shame. Some nodded at me. Some mouthed, "I'm sorry." Others simply stared, as though they were witnessing a miracle. The ceremony continued. Lily and her groom exchanged vows, their voices trembling with emotion. Rings slid onto trembling fingers. Promises were made, real ones, based on truth, not the illusions or lies that had once shaped their lives. Tears fell, hers, his, mine, and half the room's. And then, "I now pronounce you husband and wife." Cheers erupted instantly, loud and joyous, like the room itself was celebrating the restoration of more than just a marriage. They kissed. People stood. Applause shook the hall. And the weight that had crushed my chest for 10 long years finally lifted. The reception. At the reception, Lily refused to let me out of her sight for long. Every few minutes she grabbed my hand, introduced me to another friend or coworker, or pulled me into a hug that seemed to say, "I'm catching up on 10 years of father-daughter affection." The groom's family embraced me warmly. His mother hugged me as if she'd known me for years. His father shook my hand so firmly it almost brought tears to my eyes. "You raised a wonderful daughter," he said quietly. No lie could erase that. It was the kindest thing anyone had said to me in a decade. When it came time for speeches, Lily took the microphone last. Her hands trembled. Her voice wavered. But her eyes were steady, filled with purpose. "I want to say something," she began. "Today wasn't just my wedding day. Today was the day I got my father back." The room fell silent. "I spent years believing lies," she continued. "But today, I learned something important. Love doesn't disappear. It doesn't walk away. It doesn't abandon you. It waits. Even when it's hurting. Even when it's forgotten. My dad waited for me." Her voice broke. Mine did too. She walked straight to me, hugged me tightly, and whispered, "This is our new beginning." If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more heartfelt stories like this. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you in the next story.